Hello, I am Scott Herbst, founder of Six Flex Training and Consulting, and you are watching or listening to The Flex, and a conversation show where we talk with people who are expressing leadership with the intention of giving you access to expressing yours. Today, I'm really excited to have Dr. Becca Tagg on our show. I've known Becca for some time now. I don't know how long it's been.
Me neither.
And Becca is founder of Delmar, I'm going to say this right, Delmar Center for Behavioral Health. And they provide center-based services, diagnostic services, group and individual family therapy, as well as school consultation, among a couple other things I'm leaving out, to kids with autism and their families, and do so in Southeast North Carolina at
right on the
Lejeune.
beach. Yep. Camp Lejeune, you got it.
All right, I did it. The largest Marine Corps base on the East Coast.
East Coast. That's it. You got it.
All right, I've talked a lot. As always, I'm going to let you hear our guest story from our guest. Becca, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
So where I always start with my guests is I want you to go back as far as you'd like to tell your story about what had you arrive where you are, founding and now running for some time, Delmar Behavioral Health.
It's a hard question, I think. And I thought about it a good bit over the last day or two. And I think it's hard because we are, or at least I am, the sum of all these things that have happened. So it's like, at what point does it become salient to how I became me? And it's like, well, damn, from inception, probably, right? Because genetically. But as far as Delmar, I think I got into psychology first. I'm a psychologist in BCBA. I am a believer that nobody gets into psychology on accident, present company included. I took the scenic tour through life, as my front row lovingly calls it now, and I can now appreciate it being called that. So I think that matters because I spent a lot of time in treatment myself. Some of it was helpful, a lot of it wasn't. And the way I sort of made sense of that was to try to provide what I needed when I was younger. And that includes work-wise. So that's sort of how I exist in the world, is trying to leave things better than I found it. And when I was getting ready to move from California back here to North Carolina, I had sold my part of the company in California to the partner I had at the time. And I didn't want to open another business. But when I started interviewing, there was nowhere I wanted to work. Everywhere said, yes, self-care is important. And then they told me I'd be responsible for like 100 billables a week, or there was no break time built in. Or they would say, yes, client care is top priority, but don't recommend more than this, don't go over that. And they were very restrictive practices that were based more on administrative load than clinical. And I don't like being told what to do, to be honest, if it doesn't make sense. If it makes sense, I'll follow it from here till forever. But if it doesn't make sense, as I define sense, right, aligned with my values,
Yeah.
I'm out.
How do you define
and all
sense?
the way out. Making sense for me is things that move me closer to what's important to me, things that are congruent, aligned, that the incongruence or dissonance is very difficult for me to exist with. It's like physically uncomfortable, which is a side effect of doing the work that I didn't anticipate, that like I almost have to do it because it's so uncomfortable. You can't unknow what you know. So as much as I can see other people's bullshit, right, their patterns, I also see my own even more clearly, which is equally maddening. So I can't unsee it. And then being left with either the choice of, okay, so what do you want to do? You can do this, which you know how that's going to feel, or do this, how that's going to feel. So it's not a surprise that ACT is such a fit for me. Puts words to what sort of already exists and didn't fit with CBT.
Yeah, Well, a couple things. So, CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, yes.
Yes.
ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, which is a branch. I know it well. I want to make sure our listeners are tuned in.
I appreciate that.
Branch type of
Mhm.
therapy that really focuses on bringing awareness to thoughts and feelings as thoughts and feelings, kind of like separating the natural connection that we
Mhm.
tend to make between them and how we act in the world. And then what I think that brings us back to what I wanted to talk about in my question, that I want to underline, is the focus on values and getting really clear for yourself on what matters to you. And when I asked you what, how do you define making sense, that was, I kind of, knowing you, I kind of expected you would say that. And I want our listeners to really get that when we're talking about making sense here, it's not, like you said, making sense administratively, or what
For me, no. Right.
makes the most sense so that like things are easy to run or convenient for the person doing the scheduling, but really more sense like what is it that makes sense, that's in line with what I really care about and the difference I want to make in the world, which I'm hearing is something. And I know, having, talked to you, seen you present at a number of conferences, that that's some work you've really done.
Mhm. Yes.
I totally interrupted you telling your story,
That's
but
okay.
I want to push
That's
things
okay.
in a direction,
Please
because I
do.
think it's a really valuable conversation. And you can pick up your story, but I do want to make sure that I think it would be really useful for our listeners to hear about like your process for connecting to and getting into like identifying what you really value so that
Mhm.
you can act and make decisions based on it.
Yeah. Um, I think the biggest is listening to myself. My mom got diagnosed with ovarian cancer when I was in fourth grade, so like 10-ish years old. And I think she was a elementary school guidance counselor. And I think she probably made therapy appointments for my sister and I before she made her first oncology appointment. So I've been in therapy in and out most of my life. And as I said, some's been helpful, some hasn't been. The stuff that wasn't helpful was that I was over listening to somebody else's interpretation of my life, what should be important, right? Those shoulds.
Yeah.
You should do this, you shouldn't do that. Um, and I believed that everyone else knew better than I did. And that if things didn't feel good when I did what they told me to do, that was a me problem. In no way did that thought ever cross my mind that like that must mean then that this isn't a good fit for me, which is wild, and I think shows the impact of early upbringing, sometimes like complex trauma, right? This idea that, not getting those early needs met and you just learn to do whatever you whatever somebody else says to keep the people around you happy. And so a big part of identifying values for me was realizing that what I want mattered, and that it's okay if
Hmm.
it's different from what other people's wanting me to do or what they do, and listening to what felt good. Now, just because it felt good didn't mean it was right. You can look that up in
Yeah,
my late
well, let's
20s
talk
and
about
early
that because I
30s.
don't
Yeah.
want people. I have a sense that when you talk about feeling good, like you're not just talking about like your biological response to something,
And not at all,
right? Where it's
actually.
like, oh my God,
It's,
like we were before we hit record, we were talking about
mhm.
how we take coffee, right? And I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, I just cut cream out of my coffee. Because like when a spoonful of heavy cream like feels a way on my tongue that is just like,
divine.
more
Yeah.
please, more, right? My
Yeah.
body goes like more. So I
Mhm.
want to if we can, if you're willing to parse out a little
Absolutely.
bit, like what it is like, well, what are the feelings were really worth following that are instructive to like your long-term, uh, like your long-term authentic self-care, right?
Yeah.
Like not just like your body feeling good, but like caring for yourself, you know?
Yeah. So I think it actually is the opposite. It felt terrible, because it was uncomfortable. It's just like when you go work out and you're sore like 2 days later and you're like, oh God, I didn't even know I had muscles there. Yeah, well, you did, and you overused them because you hadn't been using them for a while. So at the time in my teens and 20s, truly, I was making choices about what felt good, which was skipping school. I was getting in fistfights. I got expelled from school for fighting. I was at a residential treatment facility for 2 years. Um, and all of that felt good in the moment. You know, it didn't feel good. Court costs, restitution, being sent away to not live with my family, not being able to do anything in a residential. So even when you make choices that feel good in the moment, that's not going to last. And so what I learned was the immediate moment passes. It's gone, 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 right? Moments just pass. We'll never get them back. Time's our most valuable resource. So I wanted to spend as much time feeling as good as possible as I could. And I realized the choices I was making led to very little good, and in small ways. Like if I drank a beer, I got arrested for underage drinking. I drank a beer at a Jimmy Buffett concert when I was a month after my 18th birthday. Wasn't a great choice. Screwed me out of like jobs, got made grad school difficult. Like there were all of these negatives
Yeah.
that came from this stinking beer at a Jimmy Buffett concert. And so I had to think about, was that worth it? It wasn't. So if it was, I would have kept doing it, but it wasn't. The payoff wasn't there. So it was having to do things that were uncomfortable in the moment for the longer term benefit. Like, no, I'm not drinking till I'm 21. Or, hey, this job isn't a good fit for me. Or, hey, I'm going to make less money, but I'll feel good about the work that I'm doing. So I had to really listen to what mattered. I'm a crier. I always have been. I cry for a lot of reasons. I feel my feelings really big. And something that I learned about myself was that when tears well up, and I still do this, I'll be like, oh, that's it. Like I won't know. It's like a half-baked thought. It's like I'm not totally sure where I'm going. And then when I feel the tears well up, I know that that's it, because that's the emotion that my body can't quite contain. And that tends to be what the like real thing is, real, like whatever's under whatever I was hiding or not aware of. So crying and listening to myself, it really made the biggest difference. Noticing patterns.
Yeah. I love that. I wanna dig in a little bit because not everyone is a crier. I would
Yeah.
say I'm like a medium crier, but there was a time in my life. Actually, you mentioned ACT. It was before I discovered ACT. That was a big part of my own pathway where it was like I couldn't cry. Um,
Mm.
and if you like my grandma died when I was maybe 22, and my grandma meant a lot to me, and I just didn't cry. Um, and uh and I've transformed that. So, and I know everyone's at different points in their growth pathway. So we could have some listeners who are like, well, how do I get in, like, I'm not a crier. How do I get in touch with
Mm-hmm.
where do I find that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I have an answer except to say I think it's really valuable advice to listen to, like what warms you, whether it pushes you to tears or not, but to look for like what inspires you, what moves you, what
Or think of
affects
your
you in
favorite
that,
self.
like, say
It's
that
about
again.
favorite. I like the idea of favorite self versus best self. And it's figuring out who is my favorite self, because it is not always my best self.
Hmm.
My favorite self might tell you to piss off. Is that the best thing? Well, I don't know. It depends how you define best, right? It might be, because anger is an important part of honoring that whatever you did weren't right. And I'm saying
Yeah.
that here. So like my favorite self. I feel I like myself most when I am around people that are honest and authentic, and that I feel able to be my whole authentic self. People who are honest with me, even when it's uncomfortable, because I'm going to notice if they're not being honest. My pattern recognition is just like, I can't turn it off. Being kind to animals, kids, older adults, right? People who are more vulnerable, that's important to me. Things that are colorful, bright, that make other people happy. Like, I was able to find these patterns that I felt my favorite self in those moments. I showed up in the world the way I wanted to, and I kept a list of them. I still have them on my phone. I call them glimmers now. I didn't come up with that. Somebody else did. It's the opposite of triggers. The
Mm.
glimmers are the things that tell you the world is okay and you're okay. And triggers tend to be things that tell you danger is coming. And I think we do a good job as clinicians in mental health of teaching people about triggers, but I don't know that we do a great job at teaching glimmers. And so, just like positive psychology studies people who are handling stuff well, and then how do we learn from them? I think we want to look at glimmers in the same way, because what gets your attention gets your attention. And if I'm only scanning for the negative, that sounds an awful lot like hypervigilance for me. And so I want to be scanning for the good, the positives, not just the negatives. And so I still do it. I have a list of glimmers in my notes app, and I just add to it constantly. And we're analysts, right? So I was able to just start analyzing and noticing patterns.
Awesome. So I think we've got a little bit we can offer listeners of, well, how do you connect with what really matters to you? Not the stuff that, like, the quick, I don't even know what the word is, but you get it, the
Dopamine
quick
hit. Yeah,
short
the quick
term,
hits of
but
dopamine.
like that
Yeah.
long term, like what really matters and how do I want to live my life? Like, how do I be my favorite self over time? And
Mm-hmm.
so now I am really interested in how that has influenced, like, getting really clear on what matters and connecting to it over time. Like, you didn't make this list and forget about it. Like, your list of glimmers is an active, real thing in your life, right? Is it in front of you right now?
It is.
Yep. And I could see you look down, right? Uh
Mm-hmm.
so how has that informed your leadership and like what you've developed at Delmar?
In a lot of ways, because this whole like work versus home to me is nonsense. Like, that idea of balance, I hate that, to be honest, because I am the same Dr. Becca Tagg, whether I'm sitting here at the clinic on an empty side doing this interview, whether I'm on the other side seeing a patient, whether I'm in a supervision session, whether I'm at my house. I've worked really hard to integrate. And so I like the language of integration, and it's integrating to being one person. There is no work Becca or home Becca. I am Becca. And because of that, the growth that's happened for me personally impacts me everywhere, for better, for worse. Because I also think it's important that while I'm really happy with this self, that doesn't mean everybody else is. And that's okay, right? And I think that was also something I wasn't fully prepared for, is that the more I grew, um, I thought that that would be something that everybody, you know, enjoyed or appreciated. And it hasn't always been, because part of my growth is about 100% honesty. And I mean 100% authentic, honest, transparent. And I lead that way because I am in the world that way. And people don't always like that. People don't always like that. And I have had to be okay with that, or work to be okay with that, because it means one of the choice points is I stick to what's I know to be true, right, and honest, or I do what is not going to ruffle any feathers, or I say what people want me to say. And that is hard, because I care about people immensely. And uh, people don't always see that when you are honest 100% of the time. And that doesn't mean being mean, but kind and honest is important. You share things that people don't always want to hear or that are hard to hear. And I've done that, and that's important to me because that's what I want in return, because I want to always be growing and learning. And I mean always, which is sickness in and of itself, right? Simultaneously growing, but acknowledging how far you've come. And I think it makes it easy for people to opt in or out with me earlier. And that is good, even if it's uncomfortable at times, because I am always me and aligned with what's important. You don't have to guess. But it means that if your values are different, or if the things that you value are different, I'm probably not your person. And you're going to know that. We're both going to know that sooner rather than later, which is uncomfortable, but also is better. So then people can find their right people if they need. If it's not me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm looking to connect it back to the question. So how, the question was, how has really connecting with your glimmers influenced your leadership? It sounds like one of the things you really value is honesty and
all the
open.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you are your favorite self when you're being honest, whether that's immediately comfortable or not, because sometimes you're going to be honest with someone who frankly doesn't want to hear it, or would rather hear that everything's great. And one thing about being a leader is having conversations to manage people's performance, and sometimes their performance isn't meeting expectations. And so it sounds like honesty has really influenced your leadership.
Yeah, and I think it's that leadership required me to. My grandfather used to say, "Shit or get off the pot." Like, if you're saying that this is important, you have to walk that walk. Here's an opportunity to test that hypothesis, right? And when you're operating, or at least I did, operated from kind of that bottom up of this list of glimmers, sort of phenomenological research, right? Qualitative. I'm putting things in buckets and looking for patterns. It's a lot of hypothesis testing. Like, well, it looks like a lot of these things are on this list. Let me see about that. And then putting myself in more of those situations and seeing how do I show up and working through that. And is this what I want to do? And the honesty piece, as it stands interacting with others, is one of the biggest parts leadership wise. Is about saying what I mean and meaning what I say, and being kind about it, but not being nice necessarily. Like, nice I see as less emphasis on the accuracy and more emphasis on say how the other person will interpret it. Whereas I think of kindness as accuracy and the other person's interpretation, like their feelings about it matter. And that is something I'm still working on, I think. Not I think, right? You notice those so I'm doing it now, right? I can't turn it off. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm slowing down. I'm doing like meta thinking about thinking.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how I'm talking. I'm correcting myself as I'm talking, because I'm noticing that I'm using an autocritic, right? I'm saying, well, kind of, maybe, sort of, because I'm not sure exactly how I mean it. And what I know now is I just say, well, this is a half-baked thought. It's something I'm still working on, as evidenced by it doesn't come out as easy. And that's actually an indicator of something good, instead of how I used to perceive it, which was, oh, I don't know this yet. That's a problem. Leadership has made these things part of my daily practice, which it's so kind when people say like, oh, Becca, you're so altruistic. Yeah, man, but let me be honest, this benefits me too. This is not just altruism. Getting to do this work this way every day means I get to constantly be evaluating, growing, developing, shaping, right, myself into this ever closer to my favorite self. And I love that for me. Yeah.
I love that for you too.
Thank you.
I um I really appreciate the willingness to kind of like poke around ideas and
Mhm.
feel them out. And so I'm having fun.
Good. That's super.
I like conversations like that. I want to, so I've got pretty, I don't know if it's calcified. I've got very strongly held opinions about integrity that I have some evidence for, right? Um, and so my opinions are going to get on what I say, because you're saying, you know, like I try to live an integrated life. And so I'm saying this by way of like, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Be honest with me, correct me if I am adding to anything that's not true for you. That's what I'm saying.
Will
Um,
do.
but so you talked about living an integrated life. Like there's not work me and home me. I'm a single person living this life, and you know, I call one place work and one place home, and what's there is me, right?
Mhm.
um and then you're talking about the what you just shared about was that um doing that, looking, sorting things out for yourself, really all of it, the like what is really important to me, and then acting in its service, and then questioning yourself. I can hear you do, like, am I really
Mhm.
acting in service of, or am I honoring something else, right? Like
Yes.
let me check around. Is all part of that living an integrated life. And um what I think is important, and what I would like our listeners to take, if this is true for you, is that and this goes back to like real self-care, that in the moment, uh, living with integrity with your values may
Mhm.
involve doing the uncomfortable thing. Like you might have a conversation with someone that I don't know how this is going to go, and they might react from like, they might show signs of discomfort to, they may
Mhm.
say, well, screw you, I'm out of here.
Mhm.
um with that immediate like, ugh. And over the long term, it's very rewarding and allows you to be your best self. I think that's what I want to underscore, is that that's what we're talking about, is getting clear on what matters, and then doing the personal work, which really is a lot of action reflection, to bring alignment. And you said like keep moving towards, right?
Mhm.
um
Yeah.
Towards being your favorite self. And what I'm hearing, what I really want to underline for people, is that while that might be uncomfortable in the moment, I'm hearing long term, over the course of life, it's really rewarding and
It's the
and
only way.
energizing, and like inspiring, and not just as this concept, but like inspiring, like life giving, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like if I could have gotten to the headspace of my 40s sooner, which I couldn't have because I had to learn all the things in that order because that's how I arrived here. Um, this is my favorite headspace.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't mean it's the most comfortable. I actually think it's the most uncomfortable as frequently because I'm better at discerning quicker what is and isn't for me. So
Mm-hmm.
it's more discomfort, but there's clarity in that discomfort. And I didn't have that clarity is a big part of the accuracy, honesty part. Like I wasn't clear before. Now I am. And that can change, certainly. It's not like this is me and I'm just this. It's I'm always learning to include in this moment as I'm talking through and realizing, oh, well, maybe that isn't exactly right. Or, oh, look at me doing that, watering this down a little bit because I'm not totally sure about it. Well, then just say that. Say I'm not sure about it instead of hemming and hawing and saying, well, kind of, sort of, maybe. No, just say, I'm still working on this. I don't really know yet. And here's how I can tell that in myself. It's calling self out on the same patterns and behaviors that calling in, right, is I guess a better way to say that. Um, but identifying those patterns so that I can either replicate them or not. But I have to decide, and it's my responsibility to do that. And I think that matters for leadership because there's differences in power and privilege. And that is another thing that is incredibly important to me. It is the active, ongoing keeping on the front burner of your brain when there is a power differential. Because if I have more power, I can do more harm. And I have got to be aware of that because it is important to me to not do that as much as possible because I know the impact of that. And so I have to be real clear on what is Becca's stuff and what is maybe other people's stuff. And what am I centering in this moment? Because if I have more power and privilege, I need to use that for those who have less. That's a value that's important to me. Equity is a value.
Awesome. We're getting towards the end of time. We're not quite there yet, but so I really focused the discussion on values, like, and took it in that direction. Is there anything, well, let me say that differently. What do you want to share and focus on that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I don't know, but I did notice that you just did the same thing, right? So you did that in the moment analysis, and I can't help but notice that that's something similar that we do that I don't hear a lot of people do. And that doesn't mean it's good or bad. I'm noticing that there's like an awareness of, I don't know, maybe you tell me how this lands for you. I often feel like I'm an actor in the film, but I'm also sitting in the director's chair simultaneously. So it's like I'm engaging, I'm talking, but there's also a part of me that's monitoring a little bit, like how's this frame going to look or sound, and not for maybe how things are going to look and sound, but like, am I aligned so that when I notice I'm not, I can jump in and catch it. And I think that's part of that growth process. Sometimes people say, well, what do you mean growing? What do you mean doing the work? And I think it's what you just modeled and what we have been talking about, which is it's that awareness of self. It's that self-monitoring, self-analysis,
Will you
self-awareness.
point out what you saw? Because I'm not sure that I saw what you saw, and so I don't know that people watching this would know what you're talking about. Because I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about.
You said something along the lines of you said such and I don't know exactly what it was, but it was something, and they said, well, I don't know if it's exactly that. Da 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 da. Like you self-corrected, and it was not from red to blue.
Oh, was it with like, hey, I have
red,
strongly held opinions
red.
about integrity, and
it might have been, I don't
okay.
remember, but it was something like that where what it appeared to from here was that you said something, noticed there was not quite as accurate as you wanted it to be, or it didn't come out in the way that was the way you intended. And so you caught it while you were doing it and shaped it and then kept it moving. And I think that was such a great example of, I mean, that's what doing the work is. That's what figuring out your values. In that moment, something happened for you internally that wasn't as aligned as it could be, and you pivoted. I mean, that's sometimes I think when people talk like, oh, well, doing the work, well, that's this big ass thing. It doesn't have, it's literally these moment by moment things that happen every day, all day long. That is the work. That is shaping. And behavior analysts, I think, really are able to do that quite well, I hope. We have a lot of information about that we get.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're talking about for me is being grounded in an intention and an intention that's pretty values connected, right? So I have an intention that with this now it's like you're interviewing me.
Does that feel okay?
Yeah, here's what I don't want to do. I don't want it to turn it into about me, because my intention here is
Understood.
like you are doing
Yes.
cool things in the
I
world. I want to showcase you, right? I've got a newsletter and all
see.
this stuff where I
I
like,
know. This was just
yeah,
multiple exemplars. It was another example, I
yeah.
think, of what
Okay.
we were
Anyway, so
talking
you're
about that
cool
I
with
like.
it.
Yeah.
Um, it's like being grounded in an intention, and like over my time in doing the work, like I've kind of learned to check in ongoingly with the intention. And to your point, really consistent with our conversation, is that my intentions aren't like I check with them, like, oh, is this intention really serving something bigger than me? Because I know personally, when I'm about something bigger than like this skin, that's where actually fulfillment rests, right?
Mhm.
um or am I like being sneaky and trying to, like, get something
Mhm.
from you that's going to serve those short-term interests, right?
Mhm.
And so the intention, like I have with this podcast, is that you've got something valuable to share. I want to, like, see what that is and get it for myself, but also share it with our people listening. So that was kind of the what was there for me there, I think.
Which makes sense, right? It's why when I was saying about when people say, "Oh, you know, whatever they say about, oh, you work with people with disabilities, so you're a saint." No, I mean, I hope that they get half as much from me as I get from them. But being able to be engaged in this work all day, every day, means I also get to stay engaged in my own work and growth. And that's really reinforcing for me, that continues to build momentum. And this job, this work, I can't do it well when I'm not well. It holds my feet. See, because I get tearful, and that's how I know that's what I mean, which is I can't not stay on top of my own stuff and do this work well, because I am in the room. I impact what's happening, and I will not do harm to someone else because I know what that impact is. And it's really cool to have found a job that I get to do good for others, and it does really good for me also. And I just think that is so amazing. So many people hate their job, and I do not feel that way at all. I mean, I hate certain parts of it, like notes and dealing with insurance companies, but the actual work, God, I cannot imagine doing something else, period. Like, I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Uh
Yeah,
thanks for getting to a place where you cry. I love that.
me
Um
too. That's how I know it's important.
um Now we're really close to time's up. Um
Cool.
what's going on next for you? What is your next challenge? How are you looking to
Mm.
develop in your next challenge?
I am not sure. And I think that's been a hard place to be the last maybe 2 or 3 months, is I almost always have a goal or a
Mm.
direction. I always have a direction, even if I don't know what the goal is yet. And I think I'm not sure what the next direction is in a bigger way. And it might be that it's because there's much more subtle pivot points that they feel so much smaller. They're not like going from west to east. It's like from this degree west to like this degree west. Um, it also might be, and this is somewhat uncomfortable to think about, but like I have learned a lot. And so maybe it is these smaller, like subtle tweaks that I understand self better. And so then what do I do with that energy? Because my trap would be to find something else big in self to work on. And that is a trap also, so it might be that my next direction is less self-focused or has less to do with me. I don't know exactly as far as on my growth kind of part. In a concrete way, I'm headed to Arizona's ABA conference this week, which I'm excited about for a bunch of reasons, but a big one being it was the first place that invited me to speak ever. And I remember like years ago, and they invited Shannon Biaggi and me to go. And I remember when they sent me the email that I responded, oh, I think you sent this to the wrong Becca, because in no way did it ever land that like, oh no, they meant me, that somebody actually thinks I have something to share that's of, value. So it's really neat to go back there like 10 years later, and maybe 8 years. I don't know. My sense of time sucks. So it's really neat to be going back at this time and during a time when I'm not exactly sure what the next path, not like a big path, but like I don't know what is next. And I didn't know what was coming next when I was there 8 years ago either. So it's kind of cool.
Awesome. Last two questions. What are you proud of?
I am proud of doing what I know is right for whoever has less power and control every day. That I'm in a place where I get to make sure that happens.
Awesome. And my final question is, how can people reach you?
Well, carrier pigeons are not an option, so I'm afraid of birds, but just about anything else would be
they're
fine.
extinct too.
Are they really?
That's what I've heard. I don't know. Some kind of
I'll
pigeon
have to Google it,
extinct.
which is fine by me because I'm spooked of birds. Social media. So I have Instagram, Dr. Becca Tagg. You can email me, drbeccatagg@gmail. I don't think my Facebook has my last name because I see Adults for Therapy, and that's who has Facebook. So I think it's it's Becca Marie, my first and middle name, or Delmar's website, Delmar Center, DelmarBehavioralHealth.com. Any of those options, I welcome it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for exploring, poking around. Let's figure this out together. Conversation. Those are my favorite kind. And I'm sure our listeners got tons from it. So as always, thank you for thanks for this conversation right now, and just thanks for being someone who makes a difference in the world.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And this completes this episode of The Flex. As always, give us a 5-star review or a thumbs up or whatever is available on the platform you're listening, and we will see you back here next time.